Hello, and welcome to Kumi Now. Thank you for joining us for this latest online gathering as we talk about the rights of children in Palestine. We are glad that you are able to join us this week. My name is Alice, coming to you from Switzerland. It is a pleasure to be hosting Kumi Now for the second time. I highly recommend it. Before we go further, I'd like to remind you that our webinar is being broadcast live on Facebook and will be posted to YouTube. If you want to make sure your photo does not accidentally appear online, please turn off your camera now. We would also greatly appreciate it if you could quickly share in the links, one of the links that are part of the chat so that others may join us at this time. As usual, if you have an idea or project you'd like to share, up to 5 minutes, don't be shy. In a future meeting, please email us at kumi@kuminow.com. That's kumi@kuminow.com. Now it is time for our weekly activism survey. We will now launch the poll. Please note that there are 3 questions, so scroll down to the third. I believe everyone's had a chance to answer their 3 questions. Thank you to everyone who was able to take an action last week. And thank you to everyone in advance for the action that they're going to take this coming week. The answer to number 2, 83% of Palestinian children in East Jerusalem live below the poverty line as defined by whom, is the second answer, Israel. According to the OCHA OPT, 76% of all Palestinian residents of East Jerusalem and 83% of the children live under the Israeli defined poverty line. And the answer to question 3, Israel often grants permits for children in Gaza, but not their parents, leaving thousands of children in recent years to face what alone? Is the first answer, receiving medical treatment. In 2019, 5,289 permits were issued to minors in Gaza, allowing them to travel to obtain medical treatment. But only 4,165 permits were issued to their parents, leaving over 1,000 children without their parents while receiving medical treatment. We hope that you will find this session interesting and informative. I'd like to start by having you meet our speakers for today. Omar, could you please introduce yourself?
Hi, friends. My name is Omar Harami, and I am going to be introducing our special news update for this week.
And Khaled Kuzma, could you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Alice. I'm so happy to be with you this night. And this is maybe the second time for me to be with you. But unfortunately, this time I came with another bad news according to the last development against the civil society organizations in Palestine. So I'm the director of Defense for Children International, which is one of the 6 organizations that designated as a terrorist and labeled as illegal organization in according to the Israeli occupation authorities.
Thank you. Omar, will you now give an update on what's happening in Palestine?
Thank you, Alice. Since we started these Kumi sessions, it has become a tradition that we take the first few minutes of each meeting and we give an update on what's happening in Palestine and Israel and recent developments, especially with COVID-19. But today we have Khaled from DCIP and Israel's decision to label 6 important Palestinian organizations as terrorist organizations is unprecedented. Israel has been doing enough unrealistic or unreasonable measures against the Palestinian civil society, but I think this time they crossed the red line. So since Khaled is with us, we're asking him to give briefly give us an update on what has been happening with these developments of the 6 organizations. So, Mr. Khaled, please.
Thank you, Omar. Yes, the human rights sector in Palestine is one of the most effective human rights sectors and experience in the Middle East. In Palestine, we started work as a human rights organization, civil society organizations during the occupation, even before establishing the Palestinian Authority, late 1980s, 90s. And after establishing the Palestinian Authority, we expand our work to work also with the Palestinian Authority. So last few years, I can talk about late Second Intifada, after Second Intifada, civil society organizations start to feel or to face different challenges, attacks from the Israeli government, from the Israeli occupation forces, and from Israeli right-wing groups like NGO Monitor, UK Alert for Israel, UN Watch, Regavim. So they established a special ministry, which called Ministry of Strategic Affairs, funded most of these organizations consider themselves as civil society organizations to attack the Palestinian human rights organizations, the Israeli human rights organizations, the international. Anyone start to or try to expose the Israeli policies, the Israeli crimes against the Palestinians, and ask for accountability, they become targeted. So in DCI, Palestine, and other human rights organizations like Al-Haq, Damir, others, we faced different attacks from the Israeli right-wing groups and the ministries. And I can talk just as an example about DCI, Defense for Children International. We are celebrating this year the 30th anniversary of establishing our organization, but since 2014, after more than 20 years working under the occupation and documenting the violation, giving services, we start to feel that giving services for all the life, nothing will be changed. So we switched our work also to add the component of advocacy, to ask for accountability, and to hold those who are committed war crimes, crimes against humanity, against children, against civilians, must be persecuted, and must asking the international community to have like accountability system enforced to stop immunity from for those who are committing the crimes against the Palestinians. From the moment of starting working on accountability, and especially when we start to work with the European parliaments, states parliaments, and in the United States in particular, our campaign, which called No Way to Teach a Child, and Sabil is part of this, our main partner in this campaign, targeting the Congress, lobbying the Congress to start to talk about inside the Congress about the Israeli crimes against the Palestinians. We start to receive campaigns of attacks started from the Israeli NGO Monitor and the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Strategic Affairs, and UK Lawyers for Israel in UK. And in 2014, in 1 week, all our partners around the world, they received one letter threatening them if you do not stop working with DCI, we will prosecute you in the court. So we start to have file a complaint against them in the UK because they are UK-based organization there. After maybe 6 months of litigation, communication between our lawyers and their lawyers, UK Lawyers for Israel. So the law was changed in the UK, and they asked us to put as a guarantee a grant in the court account £500,000. We have no money to continue the case, so we reached a settlement with UK Lawyers for Israel to stop attacking DCI and to announce in their website that we used to attack DCI, and now we have no problem with DCI, work with DCI structure, with DCI staff. After this failure to the Israeli organizations and the Israeli government, we showed that in July 29th of July 2021, they raided our office without any notification, without any information, without calling us, and they confiscate computers. After a few hours of the raid of the office and confiscating the laptops, we filed a complaint against them in the Israeli military court. And the Israeli military court, of course, they are military militants, and we complaints against the army. So both of them in the army. So they were not independent, even not partial. They keep postponing the case without dealing with the case. And I can say that the first shock that we received after the raid of the office, which is in the 17th of October, announced for us, and we knew about that in 23 of October, that the Israeli defense minister designated 6 organizations as a terrorist organization according to the Israeli anti-terror law 2016. This law and this escalation considered as a serious attack against the civil society, against the human rights sector, even against the Palestinian Authority, because we are all the 6 organizations, we are working under the Palestinian law in area considered Area C, according Area A, under full control of the Palestinian Authority, without even notifying the Palestinian Authority, without even with the security coordination system that they have. No one, according to our information, from the president, from the prime minister, from the head of the security forces, Palestinian security forces, there is no information about that. Just they issued this decision. We start a campaign after a few hours of this decision. Campaign around the world start running everywhere because it was unexpected, unprecedented such action. And the campaign continuous. We came back to, I was in that time, it was Friday. I was outside in Brussels, and I came back on Monday and Sunday. And Sunday we start communicating with the Palestinian Authority. All the Palestinian Authority levels, they condemned and rejected the Israeli decision and asking to reverse from this decision and to to stop the attacks against the Palestinian human rights organization and sector. A very strong statements came out from different human rights actors, from human rights experts, UN expertise. The High Commissioner for Human Rights, they rejected the Israeli decision. Instead of stopping there, the Israeli military commander of the West Bank issued a new military order against considering these organizations as illegal. The first decision was terrorist organization, but the second one is consider them as illegal organizations. But this military order is applied in particular in the West Bank, in the occupied territory, and enforced from the first moment of issuing this military order. So we are now living under a serious danger. We are subject to be arrested. Myself as a director, according to the Israeli military order 1650, I can be sentenced, arrested, and prosecuted in the military court and sentenced for 25 years. The staff, if they continue working in the organization in any way, under any name, from the office, from the street, from home, even through the internet, they will be subject for arrest, sentence for 10 years in prison. Not only the staff, also the structure of the organization, the board of directors, the general assembly members, and those who are benefits from the organization, beneficiaries, those who are cooperating with the organization, partners who are supporting the DCI, regardless who they are, if even they are diplomatic, if they are governments, if they are banks, private sector. So I can say that by this decision, they are criminalizing not only the organizations, but also the Palestinian community and those who are supporting the human rights sector in Palestine. So now we are in another place, which is under with this escalation. Before the military order is not like after, or after is not like before. Now we used to talk about to reverse from the decision. Now we are asking for to reverse from the decision and the military order, to cancel it, and also to offer full protection to those who are working, who are could be subject to persecution and to be arrested, or to be in danger in their life. So this is where we are now. International campaign is until now growing on around the world, but we are not that much satisfied or agree with the condemned that we letters and speaks that we used to receive before. Now concrete action is required to let us feel that we are protected according to the international law, according to the human rights law. This is in brief where we are now, but just to mention that a new escalation today, I heard about it in the Israeli military court, that there was a Palestinian activist arrested. He is about 78 years old. One of the charges today submitted against him, that he is a General Assembly member of one of the 6 organizations that were designated as a terrorist organization. So I'll stop here, and maybe we'll keep time for the questions.
Thank you, Khaled, for this update. It's very upsetting to hear this news, and it's good to be up to date of the latest things that are happening there. I'd like to suggest that we spend a moment to reflect and pray for the situation, for the gravity of this news. Now, if Omar has nothing else to add, I think we can now turn to our main issue of the week. Omar, do you have anything to add? Okay. The main issue of the week is children's rights. And our special guest, as you already know, is Khaled Kuzmar, who is General Director of the Defense for the Children International Palestine. As he speaks, if you think of more questions, please type them in the chat, and I will ask as many as possible when we get to the Q&A section of today's meeting. So, Mr. Kuzmar, could you continue speaking about with your presentation?
Thank you, Alice. Yes, as I said before, DCI Palestine established in 1991. We started working with offering legal presentation for children in the Palestinian children in the Israeli military court system. And by the time we start in 1991, we start also to expand our work to work with children who are detainees, who are leave the prison, giving them psychosocial support because after they passed through trauma, through difficult situation, torture, treatment, they need such kind of support. And after establishing the Palestinian Authority, we start also to work with children under the Palestinian Authority jurisdiction by working with children in conflict with the law, children of victim of community violence, and also start to work with the Palestinian Authority hand by hand to establish a juvenile justice system in accordance with the international standards. We managed through our work through the years to have a modern laws regarding the children, like the child rights law and the juvenile protection law, which is accordance with the international standards. DCI Palestine, the main the main partners who are drafted these laws, and now we are working since 2016 until now. We are working with the Palestinian Authority to build the capacity of those the juvenile justice actors, like the juvenile police, the juvenile prosecutors, the juvenile judges, how to treat the children, how to implement also the law. So we achieved a lot in this sector, and we hold the perpetrators who are violating the children's rights in the Palestinian Authority as accountable, and we file a complaints. We managed to find a complaint system and accountability system in the Palestinian Authority. While in the Israeli side, we continue working to try to help the victims, but to change in the Israeli system, it is impossible. From my experience as before become as a director, I used to work as a defense lawyer in the Israeli military courts, defending the children in the Israeli military courts. Started in 1995 until 2006. So just a few words about the Israeli military court system. According to the Fourth Geneva Convention, there is occupying power have the authority to establish a military court system in accordance with the international standards to prosecute civilians who are taking part of the hostilities. But Israel, until now, refused the implication of the Fourth Geneva Convention in the occupied territory, but at the same time, that they help them to control, to put like a full control in the occupied territory, and then they selected the article and talk about establishing military court. They select the article and talk about the occupying power have the authority to establish military orders to offer more protection for the civilians in the ground, and also for the security of the occupying power. But they selected this article and established military order. And from my experience, I can consider the Israeli military orders, the Israeli military court system is designed not to offer any protection for the civilians, nothing for the favor of the civilians under the occupation, but only to offer or to punish the civilians, to punish the Palestinians, and also to legitimate, which is important and very dangerous to legitimate the Israeli crimes against the Palestinians. So now if I go back to my case in the Israeli court, when I filed a complaint against the army when they raided our office, the answer was there is a secret information. We received a secret information that there is materials used in a terrorist action against security, or maybe will use in the military operation against security, or maybe will use in a relation with other terrorist organization for military action against the occupation. So it's just accusation and a secret file. So how to defend yourself? It's like what they call it now, the administrative detention system. So I myself, the worst work that I used to hate it, I couldn't do anything with the cases of the children under administrative detention. The child sometimes subject to tortures, to treatment, interrogation, and no confession. Then they issue a military order against him to be in prison for 6 months, and the 6 months can be renewed. If I try to defend him in the court, okay, it's a military court, but there is what they call it a secret file. As a lawyer, only I can know just one sentence that the child is endangering the security of the area, and this is everything. How I defend him? I can ask questions to the Israeli military prosecutor. Ask a question: if my client is accused of terrorist, military action or political action, the answer is the secret file. If I ask, it is new information or from the past, in the secret file. He is alone or with others, in the secret file. So I can ask hundreds of questions, but no answer, only the answer in the secret file. After my questions, only I can say that I ask the judge to see the secret file and to find answers for my questions, and then to reject the military order against the child. And then they will ask me to get out, and the military prosecutor will sit in a closed room with the judge, and after 5 minutes they will ask me to come back again and to say that after I reviewed the secret file and the answers of your questions, and I decided to accept the decision and will keep the child in prison for 6 months, and the 6 months may be renewed again to have another process in the court, but they will need. This is the Israeli military system designed to legitimate. So sometimes after about 20 years working in the Israeli military court system, I start to feel that I'm part of the system. Then I decided to stop being in the Israeli military court system because just I see myself as legitimating the Israeli military court system against the Palestinians. So this is when I talk about the military system, children are now subject to this kind of persecution. Israel is the only state in the world arrested and prosecuted 500 to 700 children yearly in the Israeli military court system, with lack of fair trial standards, with sometimes children are subject to torture, ill treatment, and different kind of abuse. So all these crimes considered according to the Fourth Geneva Convention as a grave violation against the human rights, and all these crimes should be prosecuted and investigated from the occupying power, while the occupying power is, instead of opening investigation and prosecuting the criminals, they are offer full protection and immunity to the criminals. This is why the Israeli soldiers, the Israeli settlers continue their crimes against the Palestinians, because there is no accountability, not lack of accountability, no accountability system in force. This is why we went to the international community, ask for accountability system, and we find a way to the ICC, the International Criminal Court, to start open investigation and prosecution for those criminals. And here I can link it to the decision that the Israeli Defense Minister took against the organizations. We are the 6 organizations. We are very active in this field, like especially when we talk about DCI and Al-Haq and Damir. We are asking and providing the prosecution department in the ICC, the International Criminal Court, with information about the crimes that they are committed against the Palestinians. And the Minister of Defense Minister was the head of the Israeli army during the war in 2014. He is responsible of the killing thousands of Palestinians in Gaza, and among them 550 children documented. We documented their cases, and they were killed during the war. So I believe that the decision from the Israeli Defense Minister came because he knows that he will be the first one who will be prosecuted in the court if the court continues their investigation. So here, when I talked about the violation against the children in the Israeli military detention, but I can say also from our experience, because in DCI, we are the only child rights organization in Palestine. There is many organizations who are work with children and adults and the human rights in general, but as a child rights organization, DCI is the only child rights organization. So we documented the violation against the fundamental rights of the children, like right to life, right to health, right to education. So since September 2000 until now, we documented the killing of 2,200 children who are lost their lives and killed by Israeli soldiers and Israeli settlers. It is difficult to talk about children, especially when you talk about the killing of children in numbers, but each child is a big story. But here the number is 2,200 is a high number when you compare it with the population in Palestine. So when you talk about 200 children killed, this means that tens of thousands of children there were injured, some of them seriously injured, and they lost their hands, and they become like disabled because of the attacks from the Israeli soldiers and settlers. If we talk about 2021, in 2021, we document until now the killing of 76 children. Just during the war, the 10 days war, 11 days war against Gaza in May 2021, there was 61 children killed through the 11 days of war against Gaza. 15 children killed in West Bank. So 76 children, they lost their life during 2021, which is a bloody year. If we compare it with 2021, 20, where 9 children were killed. Even 9 children killed is a big number. Myself, as a branch of the international movement called Defense for Gender International around the world, we have like 36 sections around the world. When we talk about right to life, almost this right is guaranteed for all the children around the world, except in Palestine. This right is violated systematically and continuously. This is when we talk about right to life. About right access to education or right to education, this right is violated just today. There is a school, Sawiya school, where is in the way between Nablus and Ramallah. The soldiers weekly and sometimes daily attack the school because the school is near the road where is the settlers. They use the army, the Israeli occupation army use this road, so they try to force the population there, the people, to build another school far from the street, and the people and those who are living there refuse the Israeli ask, and then this school is subject to attacks regularly from the Israeli soldiers and Israeli settlers. So the right to education is not a guarantee according to the international standards, especially when we talk about Child Rights Convention. The same when we talk about right to health. And all the world were subject to the pandemic, and every state are taking care of the population about to protect them from the pandemic. Israel is continuously their crimes against the Palestinians and even the children, regardless the pandemic is in or no. So they continuous their attacks. So many children are, especially when we talk about Gaza, lost their life because lack of access to health. Even those who are managed to have a permission to go to get out from Gaza for medical treatment, mostly they were rejected to have to be the children to be combined with the family members. And maybe the last case was a few maybe 2-3 weeks ago. She was, I think, 5 years old. She was alone in the hospital and she lost her life. She died while she was alone in the hospital. So even if they try to become like to help to give a permission, they did it in a discriminatory way, and also as a punishment to the family to give the permission to the child without the parents. So this happened. I never happened heard about such situation except in Palestine under the Israeli occupation. So just to try to give time for the questions, I would like to focus more about the accountability and the impunity. Myself, as from my experience as a defense lawyer in the Israeli military courts for 20 years, I used to spend every day about 10 hours between the army and the soldiers and talking about sometimes politics and talking about the situation. So all of them, they are so happy that they are committing all the crimes without any kind of accountability. So why why we ask them to stop while they are living under full impunity? This is why we decided as DCI and other human rights organizations, as Israeli human rights organization, international human rights organization, ask for accountability, because without accountability system, crimes will continue us, and the killing will continue us, the violence will continue us. So we believe that accountability system will be the first step of ending the occupation, ending the suffer of the people in Palestine and everywhere, if there is accountability system. Unfortunately, the only way is to find the system is the International Criminal Court. Those who are teach us and support us to build a human rights sector, a human rights system in Palestine, especially when I talk about the EU states. Most of them, they were against the Palestinian the decision to go to the ICC and to join the ICC and to ask for accountability in the ICC. Why? This is the double standards system, and I believe that this kind of system of action, like from the EU states and from the US state and from the UK, is considered as not as a green silent against the crime in Palestine, considered as not a green light to continue the crimes. It is also partnership in the crimes. And I said these words, I said it in the parliament, in the European Parliament, and I asked them to try to go back and to stop offering immunity to the criminals and to start accountability system. And we will keep talk about accountability system. I know that we are paying the price from our work in this system. We are criminalized now. We are designated as terrorist organizations, and maybe will be wanted in the Israeli security or military system. But I will keep talk about accountability system and to prosecute the criminals in order to stop the killing and to offer more protection to the children and to the civilians under the occupation. I will stop here and ready to answer questions if you have.
Thank you, Khaled, for this most sobering presentation that you've given us on such a serious subject, such an important subject. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We'd now like to introduce our action for the day and give everyone a few minutes to get started on it before we do the questions and answers. As you can see on the slide, we'd like to advocate for Palestinian children by connecting their rights to international law, explaining how Israel's actions contravene the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child. Mr. Kuzmar, is there anything you'd like to say about our action today and what people can do to protect the rights of Palestinian children?
Thank you, Alice. I can say that not only the children and the civilians are under attack, also now the human rights defenders, those who are talking about the crimes, those who are asking for accountability system to prosecute the criminals, now they criminalize us, and now we are indeed for the protection. So there is now an international campaign started from the human rights organizations, from civil society organizations, and running out around the world. We need to put pressure on in every parliament decision makers to start to raise the voice, to start to talk about the Israeli crimes and ask for accountability. Accountability, I believe, it's the main demand in this time, to start to at least to start real prosecution for those who are committing the crimes, in order to start to offer kind of that path of justice for the civilians and for the children. As I ask you usually to ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs everywhere in each state to communicate with the Israeli ministries, the Israeli government, to reverse from the Israeli decisions and the military decision against the criminalizing the human rights organizations, and also to stop offering protection and impunity for the criminals. So they can send letters to the Ministry of the Israeli embassies, to the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, to the government, because we believe that such action around the world maybe will take part of pressure, put pressure on the Israeli government to stop committing crimes in the ground against the civilians.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll now get to work. Instructions are on the screen. Please note that Zoom does not allow on-screen links. Everything you need is being shared in the chats. We'll give you about 5 minutes to get started, figuring out how you're going to educate people about the UN's Convention on the Rights of the Child and advocate for Palestinian children. We will then come back for the Q&A. Okay, thank you. So it's time to do our questions. The first one is, are these organizations free to work during the appeal process?
I can answer now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It is the situation, the legal framework here, the military legal framework is different than any place in the world, that the military order is in force direct after issuing this military order. And they have to announce it and to submit a copy of the orders to the targeted people or the victims. But what happened is, they issued it like the Israeli military, the Israeli defense minister decision issued in 17th of October. They announced and they publish it in the media, not in a official magazine. Through the media in 23 of October. The same with the military order issued in the 3rd of November, but through the Haaretz journal magazine, they issued it in the 7th. They publish it in the 7th. So from the first moment of publishing it, it will be enforced. Now we are, it's enforced regardless you appealed or not.
Okay. Thank you very much. The second question is Israel interfering with the DCIP's access to donations from overseas supporters? Will donations to DIC get to the organization?
Until now, as I said before, all our donors, because usually from our policy is to transparency and to publish in our annual report all the names of our donors around the world. So they took the list. We have about 22 partners or donors. They took their names and they issued special statement to each one, treating them that if you continue supporting DCI, we will prosecute you. As I said before, no one of our partners accept such allegation, because just throwing the words that they are affiliated to a terrorist organization or they are a terrorist, but to talk about evidence, no evidence. Even until now, when they labeled us as a terrorist organizations and illegal organization, the information that they shared with different states around the world, it is unacceptable. And this is what I heard from the Ministry of Defense of Foreign Affairs in different states, that the information that just talking, throwing accusation without evidence. And Israeli Haaretz newspaper published 2 articles about the information from journalists who are involved with the security issue in Israel. They have just some talking without linking organization. Even as DCI is not mentioned in all this talk, even from the documents that they shared. But they have no way to challenge our work, to challenge our policy, our publication. So it is easy for them to say that they are terrorists and we have a secret file. Secret file, nobody knows what's in the secret file for lying.
Okay. All right. The next question is, the reason given by the Israeli authorities for their designation of the 6 is because of alleged ties to the PFLP. How would you respond?
It's very easy. I never trust the Israeli legal system. I have no problem to find any legal system to prosecute us, and I will be the first one to stand in front of any court system, except the Israeli military system. Even in the Israeli military system, if they give us information and the facts that how they link us with terrorist organization, I'm ready to be even in the Israeli military court. After they raided our office, I filed the complaint against the army in the Israeli military court system. And I know how much they are corrupted, even that they refuse to share us single word. Just they are happy with the secret file, because in the secret file, it is not a secret file, it is a lie, big lie.
There. By doing this presentation today, are you risking arrest?
Sorry?
There's a question in doing this presentation.
Yes.
Are you risking to be arrested?
Yes, yes. Even you, since you are cooperating with me, you are subject to be persecuted according to the military order. But what happened, I don't know. Until now, Israel considered, even after all the peace process with Fatah and with the President Arafat and now Abu Mazen, they can until now arrest Abu Mazen because he is member of Fatah, which Fatah considered as a terrorist organization. They do not change anything. So I believe that this is the Israeli policy, how they behaved with the Palestinian Authority. They would like to behave with, and they would like us as a human rights organization to behave like the Palestinian Authority. We will never accept to behave like this. We will keep talk about the Israeli crimes and asking for accountability. I do not care about what they are going to do with me because this is my role. I am committed to my mission to support, to offer protection or to ask for protection for the children and the human rights.
It's very brave. We support you. There's a question about what powers do international organizations have to enforce Israel's compliance with international law on children's rights?
Yani it's, I take it as a kind of accumulation. If we start with from the grassroots organization and to the international organization, to go back, to go to the decision makers in each state, and if I believe that if Israel hear the same message from different places, different states, that enough is enough. They accused us of the terrorists. It is a very dangerous accusation that terrorists should be subject to be killed. How you accuse someone with the terrorist actions while you have nothing against him, only secret file? Which kind of secret file to be subject to be killed? How it come? Where we are? So, I don't know what to say in this double standards system around the world. If this happened from any state around the world, from Korea or from Russia, from Iran, we will see different action. But when it's for Israel, it's become some kind of keep silent or raise the hands.
Yes, it's extremely frustrating.
Very frustrated.
Yeah. In your presentation, you mentioned 15 children killed. How many were shot by Israeli soldiers with rifle? All 15?
I talked about 15 children killed in the West Bank, while 61 killed in Gaza. In the West Bank, all of them were shot and killed by the Israeli soldiers. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Has any country insisted that Israel revokes its decision and has said to take measures if they don't?
I hear the different voices and statements around the world, but I think in the EU states, the strongest one was from the Irish Minister of Foreign Affairs, that he insists to give the space for the civil society to right to expression and to talk about their work, and they have to be protected and to have to be supported, even not only protected. So I would like to hear other voices and other ministers around the world to talk about this issue. In Palestine, unfortunately, I met with the president. I met with the vice president, the prime minister, but unfortunately, they were very realistic, and they said that we have no power. We will use all our power to put the pressure on Israel, but we cannot guarantee that we will manage, because they knew that the level that they can work in.
Maybe I missed it during your presentation with some of the problems with the internet, but what were the responses from the UK and the US?
As I heard from some diplomats, that the information that they received is not enough accepted for such allegation, serious allegation. So they ask for more evidence. And my main concern is which kind of evidence they are going to provide them. I believe that they are going to provide them with more lies. Lie and lie, then we will believe yourself. This is the Israeli theory, the Israeli policy is, but I'm asking for a real action to expose, or not to expose, to exclude, or to share which kind of information they have against us, and I'm ready. I'm happy to be even prosecuted in the military court if they show me the evidence that they have against me. I can talk here on behalf of my organization. I have no problem to be prosecuted in the Israeli military court if they share with me the information, the evidence against me, against my organization. Yeah, I cannot. Sometimes I believe that they are playing with us. Like usually since 20 years, I was denied entering Israel or having a permission to go to Gaza. After the designation, after the Israeli military commander decision, they gave me a permission to go to Gaza and a permission to go to Israel. How it come? And not a permission to go with my wife for my work as a director of organization. How it come?
Makes no sense. Yeah. So maybe one more question. We're already at 7 o'clock. Is there any doubt about the Human Rights Watch findings that this is apartheid?
There is no doubt, and this is what we are talking about since years. But I am happy now that international human rights organizations start to talk about this issue, and I think this action or this decision from Human Rights Watch and from Amnesty and others, it's considered from the Israeli side that we crossed the red lines, that our message become accepted more and more, and from such respectful organizations. And I think this is one of the reasons behind designated the 6 organizations as terrorist organizations.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Khalid, for joining us today and for dedicating your time and informing us. It's very insightful about the situation that you are facing today. A link to a video of this gathering, along with all the links shared today, will be available on the Kumi Now website and on YouTube in a day or so. And it will be shared in the next newsletter. You can subscribe to Kumi Now on your YouTube or subscribe to our newsletter to make sure you receive them. We would greatly appreciate it if you shared this amazing and very important session with your friends and colleagues, as well as information about our future sessions. Next week, we will focus on gender-based violence. If you'd like to be reminded of online gatherings an hour before they begin, you can register for email reminders at kuminow.com/online using the form at the bottom of the page. We hope to see you back here in a week's time. Thanks again, and good night. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Khalid.